Hi, welcome to episode 226 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea where I sell my handspun yarns. And we have a Ravelry group called The Corner of Knit and Tea. Hi, how are you? It is Monday, April 15th, tax day in the United States, so not always a fun day for everyone. It is also a good birthday of a good friend. And I always remember that because it's tax day. And I hope that you are having a lovely week. It is beautiful and springy here, and you wouldn't know it because I'm wearing a sweatshirt because I'm in the house, and we have the air turned on because it is already a little bit humid here. And I'm drinking autumn tea, which is not exactly seasonal, but it sounded good today. So we'll get to that. I hope that you have had a lovely week. I have a ton to talk about today, not so much because there's so much knitting, there's some, but I also went to Ply-Away, which is a spinning convention held here in Kansas City by Ply Magazine, and I did that this past week. So I have a class to talk about and a few market acquisitions to show you. And then I have a couple knits and I have spun just a little bit. So, and finally I will announce the winner of the giveaway for the last podcast episode. So let's get started. Today, like I said, I'm drinking Cranberry Autumn from Hardy & Sons. It is a lovely cranberry tea, and I thought it would be nice this afternoon. It's black tea with cranberry and orange, and I am drinking it in my Sheep at Stonehenge mug, which is one of my new favorites, and it says Stonehenge inside, and the tea is delightful. It's perfect for the fall, but it's also just kind of light and fruity, and I enjoy it, and I'll drink it year round. So, and it was easy to grab. These are tea bags, although you can get it loose leaf, but I got a canister of the tea bags, and so I'm working my way through them, and then I got the canister because I like the canister. It's a nice metal canister. I don't know exactly what I'll do with it. I will either put more tea in it or maybe buttons, because it seems like it would be a good button tin. It's got a nice wide opening up at the top, so yeah. Anyway, so that's the tea. First, let's talk about the knits. I actually have two things to show you this week, which is more than I thought I would, but I had some luck this week. I still have a sample knit that I'm not allowed to show you, and I am working on that, so if it seems like there's not a lot of work on the things I'm about to show you, that is part of it, that I have another big project that I'm working on. Last week, I showed you the Comfort Fade Cardi that I am sample knitting for Zen Yarn Garden in their DK weight, and if you are astute, you will notice it has a sleeve. So this is the cardigan. I am knitting the Comfort Fade Cardigan by Drea Renee Knits, which is Andrea Mowry, I don't know how she pronounces it, and I'm knitting it in a DK weight for Zen Yarn Garden, and it will be a sample for their booth. So if you go and find them at any of the shows that they are at, I knit that for them. I'm knitting a sample extra large size in these 4 colorways. They do not have names yet. I believe she dyed them special for this. I know one is a natural, one is kind of a silvery gray, one is a silvery gray over dyed red, and one is a black. And for those of you who have knit the pattern, you also may notice that I did not, the pattern is written to fade back out at the cuffs, and I did not do that because I did not want to end at white. And I did this in consultation with the owner of Zen Yarn Garden, who I am knitting the sample for, but I did not want the edge of the cuff to be white because I thought that would just show dirt and not be, I don't know, I just didn't think it would be the most appropriate choice, so we stuck with the black. So I have a second sleeve to do. I'm going to pick that up tonight, and then I will just have the collar, and then this one will be done. And I couldn't be more pleased with how this is coming out. The yarn is lovely to work with. The sweater will not fit me. It's a little bit big for me, but it is going to be a lovely sweater sample. So as I said, if you are near a Zen Yarn Garden booth, I know they will be at TNNA this summer. I can't remember where else they will be. They do a bunch of shows. Anyway, so you will see the sample in their booth as soon as I finish it and send it back to them. I do need to wind in my ends, but otherwise it has been going swimmingly. So I'm very pleased with that. The other project that saw a bit of work this week, not a ton, but I was out running errands and my husband was driving, so I got to work on it, is I actually got through the heel in my second Pebbles and Pathways sock. So these are the Pebbles and Pathways socks. Hold on, I will grab a sock blocker. By Marceline Smith, who is Hey Brownberry. I finished the first sock a while ago. These are taking me longer than I would like because I have had other projects come up, but you know, what's a girl to do? These are the Pebbles and Pathway socks. They are some garter and some cables, and they're lovely, and I cannot tell you what the green is. It was something that I had in my stash and it had no label, but now I am on the second sock and I just completed the heel flap, so I am just getting ready to do the gussets and the foot. So I have a ways to go, but some progress on this one. So I'm pleased, and hopefully we'll finish it by the end of the month. I meant to finish it by the end of last month because now it's almost getting too warm for socks, but they still delight me to no end, and they will be lovely in the fall to wear. So if I don't finish them in time for that, for wearing them this year, then I will just wear them then. So that is the two projects that I worked on this week. I will also speak briefly about spinning. I did actually pull out my wheel this week. I kind of got inspired by Ply-Away, which I will talk about in a second. And last time I showed you the next fiber that I was going to spin is from Nerd Girl Yarns, and it is called Secretly Spiders. It is a Welcome to Night Vale reference colorway, 100% superwash merino, and it is all kinds of purples and blacks, and it is just gorgeous, and I have spun about half of it. So I have another half to spin. Hopefully maybe I'll finish this week. I have to say I've been concentrating my effort on knitting because I really need to be sure that I get these samples done by the end of the month. So everything else has kind of been taking a back seat. Okay, so that's what I've had going on this week. Now let's talk about Ply-Away. So like I said, Ply-Away is a convention thrown by Ply Magazine, and I am just lucky in that the editor of Ply Magazine lives in Kansas City, and so she holds the convention here each year. I have gone all 4 years. This year was the 4th year. And I have taken classes all 4 years and gone to the vendor market, and it is just a lovely retreat in Kansas City. This year it started on Tuesday and ran through Saturday, and we get all kinds of great spinning teachers. The one class that I chose to take this time was Spinning Silk Hankies with Amy Tyler. And silk hankies, or sometimes they call them wata, M-W-A-T-A, and I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, are when you get the silk cocoons from the silkworms and you open them. It's a several step process, but when you boil them to soften them and then you open them, a lot of times people stretch them over square frames. And then they do this with multiple layers, and you get a stack of these multiple layers of silk, and they are referred to as silk hankies. And I actually have a little bit left over from class. Mine are a little bit worse for the wear at this point because I have been playing with them, but they are roughly square. And then, like I said, they are stretched over the frame, so I don't know if you can see, but there are some layers here, and each of those little edges is a layer. They are super, super thin, and what you do when you spin silk hankies is you learn how to pull these layers apart to a layer apiece, and then you learn how to draft out the silk, and then you spin the silk. The first thing that I will say is silk is incredibly grabby. One of the things that we learned particularly in silk hankies is that you should always sort of do a spa treatment on yourself before you go to handle them, as I'm finding out now because I am crazy grabby. Every little bit of your skin or any little bit of dry skin or anything on your hands will catch and grab at them. So what she suggested doing is washing with a sugar scrub, and there are several that are geared primarily towards spinners, but pretty much any sugar scrub that has, you know, some kind of oil and some kind of sugar. You want the grit to go ahead and exfoliate your hands, and the oil would just add moisture back to them. You can also moisturize after. But you just want to exfoliate all the little loose bits of skin, and then you want to start with your skin as smooth as possible. You will still catch on it, but you will catch less on it. So we started with that, and then she could not have been more delightful. She taught us all kinds of things. First, she taught us sort of how to think about working with silk. And then we went through a variety of applications of working with silk. And a lot of people do not like working with silk, either because it's grabby or because it is hard on their hands. Silk is an animal protein, but it does not have give the way wool does. And so a lot of times it feels like spinning almost cotton. There's just not a lot of flexibility in it. And so it is hard on your hands. Silk is incredibly long stapled and incredibly strong. And so if you are not practicing drafting the right way, it is super difficult to kind of draft and spin. And then the other issue that you have is, depending on how you're holding the silk, it can actually be sharp enough that it can cut you. And so like it can cut your hands as you're working with it. So she went through a whole variety of ways to work with the silk such that you could work with it safely. And I have to say, I mean, I spin quite a bit. I haven't been doing as much spinning this year, but I spin quite a bit. And so actually my hands were not sore after it. Although I was really glad she taught us the best ways to kind of draft and loosen the silk fibers and sort of when to do a hard tug and when to kind of work it softly, because those I probably would not have done as well as I had done had she not taught us those tricks. So she had us do a variety of spinning, and she gave us this really cool sample card, which has written on it all the different things that we did during the day. And actually, I kind of condensed the card. She actually gave us 3 or 4 cards because technically this class could be a whole day, but I just took it as an afternoon class. So the first thing we did is we tried spinning some silk singles, and I spun some kind of low twist silk singles. And basically this is just sort of a control bit. I let it rest back on itself, but I didn't actually ply it per se. They were just low twist singles that I just kind of held a length against itself. Then she had us spin up several hankies and go ahead and create a plied skein of low twist. And I'm hoping that you're able to see some of this. I know it's kind of hard to see with stuff in the background. This is my mini skein of silk in a kind of low twist applied on itself. They're the same color silk hankies. Next, she had us move on to do kind of a marling, and this is 2 colors of silk hankies. One is a very light, like aquamarine blue, and one is the teal that I showed you. And that is just spinning each and then trying to ply them kind of a little bit more tightly than before, so with a little bit more twist. And you will notice that my samples are super lumpy and bumpy. One of the things about spinning with silk is that silk tends to be a little bit lumpy and bumpy. You can make it smooth if you pick all the little bits out of it, but that is kind of difficult. Mostly what you get is you get small clumps of silk in there, and it reminds me a little bit of like silk noil or what you would put in bats. And so my spinning is a little bit uneven, and you can see it in the plying, but it still is super lovely. Next up, she had us try spinning some Cormo and then plying our silk with Cormo. It was kind of a yellowy, greeny Cormo, and she just wanted us to see how the principles of wool would work with, how wool would spin up with silk and what kind of a yarn you would get. This is silk and wool is a really popular option, not specifically just spinning like a marled sample like this, but silk and wool is often blended together because you get some of the properties of wool. It's got a little bit more give, but the silk adds some drape and shine and strength to it. Next up, we did, what did I do? I don't even remember what this one is. Hang on. Then we did some Navajo plying or chain plying. And I shouldn't say Navajo plying because, so here's one of those controversies in the knitting industry, particularly now. Chain plying, which is when you basically create a 3-ply yarn by creating what almost looks like a crochet chain loop and plying on itself. I'm not really clear how it got the name, but for years it has been known as N plying or Navajo plying, but it actually has no roots with the Navajo, as far as we know. And so I'm not sure how it picked that up, but I have seen several knitters and spinners remark that it is kind of offensive to attribute something to a group of people because it didn't actually start with them. So I will endeavor to strike that from my vocabulary and call this chain plying. So this is a single strand of silk plied on itself. And then finally, the final exercise was she brought in some novelty yarns and had us draft these silk hankies and core spin with the silk hankies around the novelty yarn. And that is kind of a fun application. I'm not sure I would do it again, but it was kind of interesting and fun and a nice way to end the day. So I have a little bit more silk hanky that I can spin, and I have my samples and some paperwork on how to do it, and she gave us this nice little folder to hold it all in, which is just lovely. It will fit on my bookcase, and I cannot say enough nice things about the teacher, Amy Tyler. She was absolutely delightful. And we had a student in the class who didn't have that great a time, and she dealt with the adversity quite well. But she was really all about making it a fun spinning experience, and she let us know that the time was ours and that she was going to show us some techniques that she enjoyed and try and teach us how to spin silk safely, and so that we could make it an enjoyable thing for ourselves, but that if you weren't enjoying a part or you wanted to practice something else, that you were welcome to, and she could not have been more delightful. I really enjoyed the class, and I love the opportunity that Plyaway brings here. I go every year because I'm lucky in that I don't have travel expenses, but it is amazing to me to learn from spinning teachers who love doing this and who make a living doing this. As for my verdict on the silk hankies, I think it is a bit finicky for me. The thing about silk hankies is it takes time to pull the hankies apart, it takes time to spin, and it is a very sort of slow and meditative process. And the teacher told us that she very much enjoys that because, for instance, the way she taught us is that you separate a hanky and you draft it out and you spin it, and then you separate another hanky and you draft it out and you spin it. And so part of the reason she likes it is because, particularly since spinners can get repetitive stress injuries, it's a lot of different movements and sort of a dance that you do with the silk, and it can be very meditative for her. And I did enjoy the class. I didn't hate spinning silk hankies. I suspect it's a bit slower of a process than I really want to get into. But I do have some silk hankies in my stash, which was part of the reason that I went ahead and took this course, because I wanted to be able to do something with them. And so now I have some tips on how to work with them and make my experience with them a success. So I cannot recommend the class highly enough, and if you are interested in taking spinning classes, you should consider checking out Plyaway, held in Kansas City in April of every year. So, the next thing that brings me to is the market, and I feel a little weird because this is now 2 podcasts in a row that I am showing you things that I have bought, and I don't usually do that. However, I do usually come back from Plyaway and tell you about the makers that I saw there, so I am going to do this because I know you're all curious what I can find there. The Plyaway market is a little bit different every single year. It has moved rooms quite a bit in the hotel, and they get kind of a different selection of vendors each year. There is yarn and fiber. This year there was, I would say, more fiber than yarn, and less yarn than there has been in the past, but there was still quite a bit. There are also spinning wheels, and then sort of adjacent project bags, and all kinds of other crafts, you know, and stitch markers and notions and all kinds of fun stuff. And it's a range between, like, we had a couple of the local yarn stores here who set up booths there, but we also had a ton of indie dyers and regional folks, and so it is just a really nice market to wander. Now, I went in this year telling myself I wasn't going to let myself buy anything, which, as you know, never works. And of course there were some things that screamed, take me home. So I will say fair to middling in terms of how good I was, but I've got a few things to show you. The first is this gorgeous skein. It is from Yarn Geek Fibers, and it is her Rocketeer base, which is her merino cashmere nylon. And this is Yarn Geek Fibers. I have bought from her pretty much every year at Flyaway, and it's funny because I walked up to her booth and she's like, I remember you. And the funny thing is that I actually have not ordered from her like online that much. I see her I think she's been at Flyaway all 4 years, and I'm almost positive that I bought something all 4 years that she's been there. And sometimes multiple things. And this was no exception. This is her, I love her colorways because they are named after her yarn is called Yarn Geek, and she names them after science pioneers and most often women scientists. And so this is after Vonda N. McIntyre, a sci-fi writer. And it is this gorgeous robin's egg blue with splotches of pinks and purples and indigos and magentas, and it is just absolutely gorgeous. And I was just going to get one skein, and then I was going to get 2 skeins, and then she found a third, and so I got 3 skeins, and I suspect this is going to be a sweater of some sort. And this was way more than I was supposed to get, but I could not leave it on the shelf, and I just think it's going to make a gorgeous sweater, and I don't even know if the monitor is doing it justice. This was not planned for, but I am so happy that I did it because they are lovely and they feel amazing, and now I just have to figure out what I want to make with them and finish like 5 more things, and then I can cast on. Maybe I will save this and make this my Nanny Swaymo this year, because that would be a fun reward. I have the kids' sweaters to knit. I have all kinds of stuff to do, but that is from Yarn Geek Fibers, and she is lovely. The second thing that I bought was some fiber, and I bought this from Hello Pearl, and actually I bought from her, I believe, last year as well. And this is her card. She is hello_pearl on Instagram. She is lovely, and she gave me some stickers and all kinds of things. And I bought a bat from her, and you hear me talk about this all the time. I don't actually love spinning from bats, but I love the way they look. I absolutely love the way they look. The reason I don't enjoy spinning from them is because I enjoy fairly smooth spinning, and I don't particularly like a lot of texture in my spinning. And bats, as a preparation, I think I've said this before, you can fast forward if you don't want to hear it. So mostly I spin from top. And top is prepared in that all the fibers are combed, so they are all going one direction. And they spin and draft easily and lend themselves to a short forward draw, which is how I enjoy spinning, which is basically kind of an inchworm, and it creates a very smooth yarn, drafts easily, like I said, all the fibers going in one direction. The way bats are prepared is multiple set fibers are combed together, and lots of air is added, and they are light and fluffy. However, it is not combed in the same way that top is combed. And so the fibers can kind of be going in all different directions. They don't always line up. In some of my favorite bats to look at, there are textured items like silk noil or sari silk or other bits of Angelina or Stellina or Firestar, and just a variety of things that do not necessarily lend themselves to smooth spinning, but make an amazing bat. So this year I bought an amazing bat, and I have no idea what I'm going to do with it, and hopefully I'll look at it between now and next year, because I do actually like to try and spin some things up in the year in between. But this bat that I bought is called Urban Sunrise, and it is blues and pinks and fiery orange, and it kind of reminds me of Fire and Ice, and it has got all different fibers in there. It is just kind of a bright rainbow, and it is 4.3 ounces of Blueface Leicester, Romney, Corriedale, bamboo, faux cashmere, faux mohair, milk fiber, and Angelina. And again, that was from Hello Pearl. So, and she has amazing bats. There were like 12 that I could have bought, and I limited myself to one. And actually it was really funny because that was my first purchase. And I was like, okay, I made a purchase. I shouldn't buy anything else. I'll just let it go. And then of course I fell into the yarn, and you know, 3 skeins is not inexpensive, but so that is what I bought at the marketplace. I enjoyed it. If you ever come to the marketplace, they actually have a card you can get stamped if you shop at a certain number of vendors or spend a certain amount of money. There are door prizes. This year I was aiming not to do that, only because I don't have that available, but I am pleased with my purchases and super happy. So the last thing that I should cover, and we are at 25 minutes, so this seems like a good time, is last week I said, darn it all, I want to get to 800 subscribers, but it's not happening yet, so I'm just going to go ahead and do a giveaway. And the funny thing is I actually didn't even look at my subscribers before I started today, so I could be at 800, but I don't know. We had 28 commenters. I ran ahead and ran the RNG, and the winner was Sarah Walker. So Sarah, you win this beautiful braid of Hello Yarn. It is Ground Dweller, and I showed that last week. It has only been out of the bag so that I could braid it, and you said that you were interested in spinning it yourself rather than having me spin it. So if you will just contact me, you can send me an email at ldwcameron@gmail.com, or you can contact me on Ravelry. I am Fluffy K on there, and go ahead and send me your full name and address. I will go ahead and get that out to you this week. If I don't hear from you by next week when I record, which will be next Monday, I will go ahead and select another winner. So, thank you all for your lovely comments, and I am so glad that you're here with me, and thank you for joining me this week. I hope you enjoyed hearing a little bit about my spinning adventures, and I'm hoping pretty soon I'll have more knitting content that I can show you. Probably another week or two of finishing up these samples, and then I have a million things I want to cast on, and none of them are secret, so you'll get to see them all. So I hope you have a lovely week, and until I see you again, I'll say as I always do, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye!